Hi, Divrei alumni. I hope you're all well. Welcome to the Summer Tiferet Torah Learning Series, where every week we're excited to present to you some Divrei Torah and Divrei Chizuk from different members of the Tiferet faculty. We look forward to being connected with you over the course of the summer in this way, and we hope that these shiurim provide you with inspiration and chizuk over the course of the summer. So it's my pleasure to be able to learn a little bit with you about Parshat Shlach, which is, of course, as you all know, a very, very challenging parsha, and especially as we're coming up towards the summer and the very difficult kufa of the 3 weeks and Tisha B'Av, Parshat Shlach is really the thing that sort of gets the ball rolling. So I wanted to speak to you a little bit about the Chet of Lashon Hara that the Meraglim performed. I heard a beautiful idea from a Rav named Rav Asaf Ben Arsh, who lives in Eretz Israel. Many of you probably remember that his wife Liora, who's the Yoetzet Halacha, comes to speak at Tiferet every year. So I was listening to a shir that he was giving on Wayu Torah, and he brought up a really wonderful question. He said, the Meraglim, it's true, the Medrash talks about how they're so harshly punished for not learning the lessons of Miriam and her Lashon Hara. But if you think about it, they really don't speak Lashon Hara in the traditional sense. Meaning Lashon Hara is really what happens when you speak ill of a person and you cause them hurt, you cause them damage, you hurt their feelings, you cause financial loss. But who did the Meraglim really hurt? Eretz Israel doesn't have feelings. Eretz Israel doesn't care. And really, honestly, the people that the Meraglim hurt by speaking Lashon Hara were, quite frankly, themselves. And because Klal Yisrael listened to and believed the Lashon Hara, they hurt each other in that collective sense. But how does that fall into sort of the traditional understanding of the Chet of Lashon Hara? So he shared a beautiful, beautiful explanation. He said, really, we have to look at the deeper understanding of what is so bad about a person who speaks Lashon Hara and how come Lashon Hara is so damaging. Many of you know that there is a difference brought down in halacha between rechilut and Lashon Hara. Rechilut is when you say something about someone else that's not true. An English word I would use for that is just sort of like gossip. You're just walking around talking about people, sort of letting loose anything that a person would want to say. A person would let loose with anything they want to say without fact-checking. Lashon Hara, however, is something that you say about another person that's true. So what's so bad, what's so wrong about speaking the truth? I was laughing when I was thinking about this idea because as a person who's pretty blunt myself, I was thinking, I say the truth all the time. So what's so bad about saying the truth? And the answer is that sometimes saying the truth just as it is not really saying the truth. I'll explain what I mean. Most things in life are not super black and white. It's not just about the events that unfold, but also the interpretation that a person gives to the events. For example, let's say you have a kid in high school who comes home with a 70 on their math test. Until you know that child, you don't know what that 70 means. Okay, what do you know? You know it means he got 70% of the questions right. You know it means he got 30% of the questions wrong. But if it's a child who normally gets 100% of the questions right and just didn't feel like studying the night before, well then that 70 is a bad grade. But if it's a child who usually gets 20% of the questions right, and this child worked and struggled and wanted to succeed and persevered, and they got a 70, well, that 70 is the greatest grade in that class. So it's not just about the number that's written on the top of the paper. It's about the understanding of the entire situation and the interpretation of events. If I look at things that happen in my life and I can only see the negative in them, well, then that's a problem. And while it's true that the Meraglim called Eretz Israel Eretz Zavach Chalav Udvash, that is not what they chose to emphasize. They chose to emphasize the negative. They chose to emphasize the frightening. And Bnei Israel chose not to fight against that, but rather to listen to it. Instead of having greater emunah that HaKadosh Baruch Hu had taken them out of Mitzrayim, would provide for them and would take care of them. And that was the problem with the Meraglim. We all know who's a person that speaks Lashon Hara. Yeah, it might be a person who sees the truth, but it's a person who sees the truth with a negative slant. It's the person who goes up, okay, we just finished Tiferet, so I'll give one more dorm example for the year. It's the person who goes up to the dorms and sees that their friend is in a quiet mood. A person who can be dan l'kaf zchut and see that in a positive light will say, wow, maybe she's going through something. Wow, maybe she needs a little space. Maybe she's just in an introspective mood. But we all know that there are plenty of people who will look at that person and say, oh, she's getting so cliquey, she's getting so snobby, she's getting so standoffish. When in reality, they don't know. And so often it has less to do with the actual person that's doing the events, in my example, the quiet girl in the dorms, and much more with the person who's looking at and interpreting the events. Chazal even teach us this idea when we talk about the idea of Ketzad Meraktan Lifnei Akala. And Baruch Hashem, we've had a few kalas new to the Tiferet family in the past couple of days. When Chazal say Ketzad Meraktan Lifnei Akala, we know that we say Kala Na'eh V'Chasudah. When we look at a kala, our job is to look at a kala as beautiful. What if it's the ugliest kala you've ever seen? It doesn't matter, because on the day of her wedding, she's considered to be beautiful. On the day of her wedding, we look at her in a completely positive light. That's the person who's the opposite of one that speaks Lashon Hara. That's a person who's able to find the truth, but the truth in the world is goodness. And for those of you who either just recently left Eretz Yisrael, or even you haven't been to Eretz Yisrael for a while to visit, I'll say that, of course, to tie back into the Parsha, the same thing holds true with what goes on today. It's so easy to find negativity here. It's so easy to look at Israel and say, oh, it's a mess. I can't get my Starbucks. I can't have, I can't get material things I get in America. Things are harder here. Things are more expensive here. But to do that would be missing the essence of everything that is special here. And I think that that's something that people notice and try to really capture and hold on to there in Israel. And one of the challenges is that the longer you're away, actually the memory of that sometimes fades. And you're left remembering, oh, I had to take the 417 instead of just getting into my car. Don't worry, Mirz Hashem, when you all make Aliyah, you'll have cars, you won't have to take the 417 as much. But in terms of ourselves, so number one, a message is just to remember Eretz Yisrael in a positive light, to be a corrective for the Chet HaMeraglim. And in terms of ourselves, what's the Musar Haskell we could take from this? What's the life lesson we could take from this? Well, everyone who's listening to this Dvar Torah is listening to it at a fixed point in their life. Again, now I'll speak specifically to the girls who just came back. A lot of you are feeling, I've been getting, honestly, an unprecedented number of voice notes, which I'm so thoroughly enjoying, every single one of them, about how challenging it is to be back home, even though you love your families and you're excited to be home with them. But even from alumni who've been in America for a while, wherever you are, looking for a job, finishing school, in a job, married, with kids, looking, wherever you are, wherever you're holding, all of us have experiences that we go through, some of which we can control and some of which Hashem is, putting in front of us and we can't control them at all. But we always can control is how we react to those experiences. And do we choose to go the route of the Meraglim and see the negative? Or do we choose to look at these things with the eye of real B'nai Torah and see the positive and appreciate all of the bracha that Hashem gives us in our lives? And as we head into this time period of the summer, again, which has its own challenges, lack of structure, the 3 weeks, the 9 days, Tisha B'Av, and then, of course, culminating at the end of the summer in the days of Elul, let us take time to take a deep breath, focus, think about the positive things in our life, think about all the bracha that we have in our lives, and Mirz Hashem, may we use that to spur us onto a greater level of Avodat Hashem and ultimately May we see the coming of Mashiach. Shabbat Shalom to all of you. Please be in touch over the summer, and I look forward to speaking to you all soon. Bye.